Putrajaya is seeking assistance from Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan to repatriate Malaysians from Israel who were on board the global Sumud Flotilla. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim says Malaysia will then arrange for their journey home from Istanbul. If negotiations proceed smoothly, Anwar said the process of bringing the volunteers home is expected to take 2 to 3 days. The Foreign Ministry has confirmed that all 23 Malaysians detained during their participation in the flotilla are safe and in good health. The global Sumud Flotilla mission, involving more than 500 activists from multiple countries, had been sailing towards Gaza to deliver humanitarian aid. The final vessel, known as the Marinette, was seized on Friday morning along with the 6 crew members on board. A live geo-tracker showed the boat was intercepted some 43 nautical miles, or about 80 kilometers, from Gaza's territorial waters. That's on the global Sumud Flotilla. Be sure to follow the latest updates across all Astro AWANI platforms. We'll now go for a quick break.
Sorakan bergema, Stamford Bridge bersedia, kubu yang suka ditawan Liverpool.
This game continues to entertain.
The Blues teguh berdiri, mencabar tanpa gentar, drama, semangat, inilah one for the fans. Chelsea menentang Liverpool secara langsung dan eksklusif di Astro.
When the superpowers move, the ground shifts. Power isn't just about might anymore. It's about narratives, networks, negotiation. We go beyond the noise to deliver laser-focused analysis on how power moves and what it means for the world. This is AWANI International, reporting the shifts in power affairs shaping the world.
Welcome to one of the great tests in Formula One under the floodlights of Marina Bay.
Welcome to Singapore.
Good reaction time for Lando Norris down to turn number 1.
Norris is gone up the road. It is a circuit that demands so much.
Piastri with a montage of great overtakes.
This is the Singapore Grand Prix.
Lando Norris takes the checkered flag. A dominant drive complete.
Welcome back. U.S. President Donald Trump is considering handing out dividends to Americans funded by the revenue generated from his tariffs. The plan aims to provide financial relief to taxpayers with potential rebates ranging from $1,000 to $2,000. Any disbursement from the federal government, however, would require congressional approval.
Mr. President, thank you so much.
Trump's proposal came as the Supreme Court is scheduled to hear arguments next month on whether the president has the authority to impose sweeping global tariffs. Citing data from the Treasury Department, Fox Business reported that the Trump administration has collected around $214.9 billion in tariff revenues so far this year. In August 2025, the U.S. national debt reached a record high of $37 trillion, driven by persistent budget deficits, increased federal spending, and defense expenditures. Trump has suggested using tariff revenues implemented starting in April to help pay down the national debt without rising taxes on American households. He added that the U.S. has already received $200 billion from tariffs this year, with an annual target of $1 trillion. U.S. President Donald Trump warns that federal workers could be fired and projects cut if the government shutdown continues. The federal government partially closed on Wednesday after Congress failed to pass a funding deal, with only essential services still running.
Well, there could be firings, and that's their fault. And it could also be other things. I mean, we could cut projects that they wanted, favorite projects, and they'd be permanently cut. So you could say, a lot of people are saying Trump wanted this, that I wanted this closing, and I didn't want it.
Trump said he and his budget director will work out which he termed as Democrat agencies to cut as the U.S. government shutdown approached its third day. White House spokeswoman Carolyn Levitt on Thursday said thousands of federal jobs are on the line, though she gave no specifics. Several unions have sued to block the move, but courts have so far allowed layoffs to proceed. Syria will hold an indirect vote on Sunday to establish its first parliament since Bashar al-Assad was ousted. The election comes as President Ahmed al-Sharaa moves to tighten his grip on a nation scarred by 14 years of war. Regional electoral colleges made up of 6,000 electors are set to pick two-thirds of the 210-seat parliament. Shara will select the remaining seats with a committee formed already approving 1,570 candidates. Citing security and political concerns, voting will be postponed in Kurdish-controlled areas in the northeast and in Suwaida, leaving 19 seats vacant. Critics warn the process is tightly controlled and unrepresentative of minority groups, with little guarantee of inclusion for women. In many districts, women make up 10 to 20% of candidates. No quotas have been set for women or minority lawmakers. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung urges the North to consider resuming reunions of families separated during the Korean War. Ahead of the national Chuseok Thanksgiving holidays, Lee expressed hope for an easing of hostilities and for cooperation to resume with Pyongyang. Speaking to South Koreans with relatives in the north, Lee said it was a political responsibility for the two Koreas to allow split families to communicate and exchange letters. He added that this was part of humanitarian cooperation between the two neighbors. According to South Korea's Unification Ministry, around 36,000 South Koreans separated from their families in the north have requested government assistance for reunions. The last family reunions between the two Koreas took place in August 2018 and were later halted as inter-Korean tensions rose. Pyongyang announced in February that it was dismantling a facility used for the family reunions, signaling the strain in ties with the South. Kim Yo-jong, the sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, has also rejected the possibility of dialogue with Seoul, saying the North had no interest in dialogue. Indonesia has suspended TikTok's local operating license after the company refused to fully share data on its live stream activity during nationwide protests in August. The government had requested traffic, streaming, and monetization data, but TikTok, owned by China's ByteDance, provided only partial records. The Ministry of Communication and Digital Affairs said some accounts tied to online gambling reportedly used the feature during recent national protests, monetizing their streams. The protests, which ran from late August to September, was sparked by outrage over lawmaker allowances and police brutality. TikTok temporarily suspended live streaming during the unrest to keep the platform a safe and civil space. Under Indonesian regulations, any company registered under the country's licensing rules must provide its data to the government for supervision. TikTok, with more than 100 million accounts in Indonesia, remains accessible for now. The suspension primarily affects its legal standing, though it could be extended to its operations if the company does not fully comply with government requests. India and China are set to restart direct flights this month, ending a suspension that has lasted more than 5 years. The move comes as a sign of easing in bilateral tensions. Since 2020, there have been no direct flights between the two countries, even though China remains India's largest trading partner. India's largest airline, Indigo, will start daily non-stop flights between Kolkata and Guangzhou on October 26, with plans for a New Delhi route as well. The move follows Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to China last month, the first in 7 years, to attend a Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting. Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping called their countries development partners, discussed boosting trade, and addressed India's growing trade deficit, now nearly $100 billion. Modi also underlined the need for peace along the disputed border, where a 2020 clash sparked a 5-year military standoff. This week on Wu Says, we look into US President Donald Trump's scheduled visit here for the ASEAN summit and its implications. Here's a segment from the conversation with Professor Emeritus Dr. Wu Wing-tai.
Do you believe Anwar made the right call in inviting Donald Trump to attend the ASEAN summit?
Well, it was a very hard call to make because I'm sure Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim feels no less repulsed like you about Donald Trump. Here is a person who has been downright insulting towards Muslims and to almost every minority group. Now, praising Trump does get you some goodies. For example, if you look at the tariff rate of the European Union, the tariff rate is roughly 15% for France, for Germany, and so forth. Britain had 10%. So buying friendly to Great Britain, Britain was able to get a much better trade deal than anybody, than its neighbors. Another example I want to bring to mind is when Trump went for the NATO summit, and he, of course, claimed great credit for stopping conflict elsewhere in the world. Like he claimed to have stopped the fighting between Thailand and Cambodia when it is our Anwar Ibrahim that actually brought about that happy state of affairs of a ceasefire. Now, so he was claiming credit about that the fight between Iran and Israel is not something you can do easily. It's like little children fighting, sometimes you can let them fight for a while before you can persuade them not to fight. And at that moment, the Secretary General of NATO jumps in and said, yeah, Daddy knows best. Daddy has to stop bad things from happening. Well, what has that daddy earned NATO? Well, Trump basically agreed to NATO taking a longer time in reaching 5% of spending, or 5% of its budget to be spent on military rearmament. So praising Trump makes it easier for Trump to climb down from his unreasonable positions. For us, the average tariff rate of ASEAN is 19%. And the negotiations are not done. They are still ongoing. In fact, a few days ago, the US trade negotiator said that if we do not make faster progress, we will have to raise the tariff rate on ASEAN. So we are talking about not just Malaysia, that our economic prosperity is on the line, is that of ASEAN as well. We many times have to walk, like you said, walk a tightrope between showing publicly our disapproval of the person versus trying to increase the welfare of our country.
Catch the full conversation on AWANI International and across our social media platforms.
That's AWANI International for tonight. Stay with us as we track the rivalries, strategies, and power shifts shaping the new global order. For more updates, visit international.astroawani.com and follow us on social media accounts. I'm Farhana Sheikh. Thank you for watching and good night.